and we're going to talk a little bit about Van Gogh today. Cheers. I have my coffee. I'm ready to draw a card in the second half hour. And the first half hour, I thought we would talk a little bit about the show I went to. This is a show from a long time ago, this book. This is not the companion to the show that I went to yesterday. The show I went to yet, but it has a lot of the same, it has a lot of the information in it. I went to the Museum of Fine Arts Boston and saw, excuse me, Van Gogh, the Ruin Family Portraits. And it was a really good show. It's basically, here's my little head in here. Okay, let's see. Basically it was doing a period of time. They went over the period of time from 1888 to 1889 when he lived, excuse me, in Arles, France. He moved there and he was very determined to do portraiture. So Theo was, subsidizing all of this, and he was he was painting portraits. So he made friends with this guy, Joseph, and Joseph was a postman and he was his neighbor. And he ended up like drawing his whole family, not drawing, painting his whole family. And getting very close to this family. And there was like some overlapping things that happened. Gauguin came and I think he stayed with them for a few months in late 1888. And then they had their big fight and then he cut his ear off and then he went. This was in December. Anyway, December 1888, cut his ear off, went to the hospital. Then after that, he went to an asylum for a, basically on and off for the rest of his life. And then he died at 37. He shot himself. So, so the show showed, and they didn't even have all of the paintings. They didn't have all of the paintings that he did of the Ruin family. And sorry, I'm just trying to find the page here. Because, this book is a book from a show 25 years ago at the MFA. And fun fact, I designed the website for this show when I worked with MFA was partnered with Boston.com, Boston Globe, and I worked for them as a designer and illustrator, and I designed this website. I did design websites for the MFA, because at that time, this was before they had their own website. This was when they, this was before, Internet 2.0. So yeah, it was fun. I got to design websites for shows like this and it was really great. And I got this beautiful book from the show and then I would get to go to the opening and all this. But okay, that's a different story, but I hope that was a fun fact for you. So let's find the Ruin family portraits here. Okay, they're before. This is Saint Remy and Overs. That's when he was in the asylum. So here's the section, La Famille Roulin. So he had this family sit for him. I guess, he was just very good friends with James and then he became good friends with the family. And it turns out, and he had a huge amount of respect for and friendship with Augustine as well, which is the postman's wife. So he painted her a lot too. It was interesting because they didn't just have Van Gogh's paintings. They had paintings of other artists because at the time when he lived in this yellow house near um, James, he would try to have his home be a group like community for different artists to come in and just hang out and paint together and get ideas from each other. So he was doing this whole thing, and then I think that was the dream. And then he had uh Gauguin, and I think Emile Bernard was there at some point. That was another one of the artists that he was friends with. He had like an artist community of friends that he knew. It's kind of interesting too because, communication back then, like photos, were not easy to come, like we didn't have the internet and stuff like that. So you wonder how they wrote a lot of letters. Okay. We know that Van Gogh, he was a prolific letter writer and exchanger with people that he cared about and people in his life. So, I mean, we know they wrote letters. That was like probably their main mode of communication. Yes, their main mode of communication, obviously. So yeah, it's just very interesting. Such a different time. This is a beautiful painting. They had this one. I don't think they had this one. Um, they didn't have that. They had these four. Basically, it was a great show to talk about that period of life for him and who was in his life and the relationships, and it showed a lot of his inspirations, like artists that were inspirations to him. They had paintings of those people. They had other art that was inspirations to him, like he was very much into Japanese art at the time. And then they would show side by sides of paintings. Like he had this set of posters in his house, or prints. They didn't have posters back then, probably. He had a set of a triptych of Japanese prints in his house, and they were connecting the dots. It's a lot of connecting the dots of, look at how this is inspired. Look at how this background is inspired by these Japanese prints that he had in his home, that he lived with. And then the look at how the background designs of certain paintings, connected with, you know, other inspirations. So it was all very interesting, and I enjoyed it. I will say I was a little surprised by how few of the paintings they had in the show. It almost was like, and I know that's how art shows are. They really want to flesh out the story and, like, share the time and the culture and the relationships. And so they didn't have they had a lot of paintings, but they didn't have a lot of paintings. I forget how many paintings they had, but they didn't have all the paintings that he did of the family. But what they did have was they had a lot of letters. They had letters from James Ruhlin to Van Gogh, and Van Gogh really at that point wasn't writing many letters. This is Augustine, James' wife, and his youngest child. There was just some interesting stuff, like the paintings of the child. Um, the first few, like I think he painted the child 3 or 4 times, and I think two of them. Don't quote me. Um, I don't remember exactly, and I could be wrong, but I think two were of the mother and child together, and that's cute. But he some of them were a little garish, because like this one was was quite. What I really picked up was that this one was quite garish and unfinished, and then I noticed that he wasn't focusing on the woman's face much. And at this point in the show, I was thinking, did they have a relationship at all? And then as the show progressed, I saw that when he would paint her, he painted her with much more, individuality and uniqueness, and with the same um, prism of interest as he did with James and with the rest of the family. So, and then he also put her in paintings later where he usually painted from life, but or had used reference from life, but he did have a painting where I guess he was inspired by Gauguin to try painting from imagination. So there was one painting where he had a scene. It was like a nightclub style scene, and she was interjected in there. I have a photo of it. It's on my phone, and I'm using my phone to record, so I can't show you. But cheers. But that was very interesting, and I don't know that I've ever seen that picture. I'm wondering if it's in this book, but I don't think it is, but it might be. Let's look real quick because I think he made that painting after his ear incident and when he was in the asylum. So let's just real quick. Let's just pop through here. This book is pretty expansive. This book that I got, but this book, again, for anybody else who's watching, is not the one of the show. This is a book that was from a show, a Van Gogh show at the MFA Boston 25 years ago. Okay. All right. Let's see it here. Anyway, he made so many paintings, and he only painted for 8 years, which is really just amazing. So, yeah. So, it was a very interesting show. I really enjoyed the letters. I really enjoyed how they did the letters. They would do, they had these slanted just stands with the letter written, and then they had it written in English aside. So it had the handwritten letter, a copy of it, I believe, and then they had it translated into English, and then they would have a little voiceover. So you would walk up to the stand and it would automatically start reading the letter, and it would read it. It was really strange because I didn't know where the sound was coming from. You had this little stand in front of you, and you stood in front of it, and all of a sudden you could hear somebody reading the letter, but you didn't know where the sound was coming from. And there was many of these little stands in the room, so there was like maybe 20 of them or something. And when you're listening, the way that they did it was like you couldn't hear the one next to you, but you could hear the one in front of you, and it was a real like personal experience, and you did not know where the sound was coming from. Like, was it coming from above? Was it coming from down below? I don't know. So that was pretty fascinating. And it was just nicely done. I liked the execution of that. And then another thing I really enjoyed was that, aside from the art, was they showed, I got kind of fascinated by the whole photograph, like lack of photographs. And I'm thinking about how he painted people from life. He did not like photographs, and Vincent van Gogh was rarely photographed. So they had photographs of the Roulin family at the very end of the show. They had very few, but like one picture of the son at age 50-ish, and one picture of the smallest child, who was the last person known to have known Van Gogh, like the oldest living person to have known Van Gogh or been, you know, associated and have met him. And I think she died in 1980. So they had pictures. He died of, I think, tuberculosis at a young age. He died older, I think around 70, and she died, no, I think because she died older than him. But he lived a long time. And I think she lived a long time too. She lived over, I think she was over 70 when she died. Um, anyway, and I think he died pretty young, but after 50. So I just thought it was interesting too to see the looks on the faces of the portraits. So how he looks kind of like, just paint me, you know, like I'm not really enjoying this. Can you please paint me? And the kid, Camille, just very intense. Every painting of this kid is intense. I think he was like 11 when he was being painted. So anyway, and it was very interesting to see the growth of how Van Gogh painted the child, Marcel. So the first couple were very like, okay, for lack of a better word, like garish. Okay. I mean, they're great, but the colors were very, you know, but the eyes were very intense. Um, I do enjoy them. I probably wouldn't want them on my wall. You know, they're just like kind of wild. And then the last painting he did of the child was very soft and balanced. It was interesting to see his growth with the painting of the child because I think, I mean, just from looking at the painting of the child and how he painted the child repeatedly, it looks like he was struggling with painting the child at first. And also, this was pretty close after this child was born. And I think maybe I'm totally projecting, I don't know, or guessing. I think perhaps he didn't know her well at this time when he painted this one. And then he got to know her better, maybe? Although it looks like these two were painted at the same time. So that doesn't hold water. I guess he probably just wanted to focus on the child. Anyway, so yeah, so that was the show. And it was good. And one thing that it did do for me was it made me, because I drew Van Gogh a couple weeks ago here on my live stream, and this show made me want to draw Van Gogh from a photo. He drew and he painted people from life and himself from life a lot. Apparently, it was challenging to get people to sit for portraits. You had to pay them or, you know, compensate them in some way. And, you know, he didn't have a lot of money. So, um, with James, he would subsidize his food and drink. I mean, they really didn't have much. Oh, see, this is beautiful. Look at this painting. This is the baby, and it's quite balanced, and I love the light on it. But it's kind of funny because you look at some of these other ones, and I would like to. You look at some of the other ones of the baby, and it'd be interesting to talk to a painting expert, like a historian person who knows how paint ages and stuff like that, because Oh, now we're in a whole different section of the book. Where am I? Where was I? I should have put a marker down because it's interesting to look at some of this and looking at the face and seeing, sorry, that's a really tiny one, but looking at the face of the baby and seeing the different shadows. And it makes me think, like, did certain pigments get darker over time, you know? So, and maybe it wasn't like this when it first was painted. So all these questions come up. But anyway, okay. The family. James, and then the son was Armand, and he is about 16, 17 years old. I think he was 17 when he got painted here. Augustine is the wife, James' wife. And then we have Camille, who was 11. And then we have Marcel, who was born. So Marcel was born when they were friends. So at one point, Augustine went to her parents' house someplace else, like left to go have her child, and he stayed to work in Arles. So that's how they did things. So that's that. And apparently, they were very poor. They had, here we go. Compared to the artist, the Rulans were poor. While Van Gogh could not manage to live on the 250 francs a month he received from Theo, although he did not even have to pay for painting materials out of this, Joseph Rouland housed and fed a wife and 3 children on 135 francs, the salary he received as entreposeur de poste at the railway station of Arles. So then it says Rouland was a man of sorrow, in quote unquote, and he and his family were acquainted with grief. So I don't know what that means. I think that could mean a lot of things. Maybe she had a lot of miscarriages, stuff like that. Maybe they, you know, had people who were not well in their family. I'm not sure. But if you read the letters, if you look at the letters that James sent to Van Gogh in 1889, when Van Gogh was in the asylum and after he had the ear incident and he was healing from that, he certainly does not sound like a man of sorrow. I mean, he was really trying to keep it upbeat in those letters. So it's kind of interesting. Like he's depicted as kind of a jolly-ish. Maybe he doesn't look so jolly here, but he is depicted. I think maybe a lot of that has to do with his relationship with Van Gogh because they had a very close relationship. Anyway. And I love these paintings. And he really captured the eyes of the child so well. So beautiful. So I like this. Love his light. Okay. So that's the show. And if it comes to a city near you, check it out. And the MFA is also a great museum. Okay. So I was kind of fascinated with doing Van Gogh, like drawing him from a photo. And then I find out, what is it? Here he is. The Mystery of Van Gogh's Photos. So apparently, this is like the only picture that everybody can agree is Vincent van Gogh. But then I don't know. There's his brother Theo. There's his brother Theo. And there's him. And then this is a painting, a picture. Sorry, not a painting. This is a guy who people have said is a portrait of Van Gogh, but it's not. It's not been proven to be. And they say that because this picture was taken in 1887 and this one was no 1886 and this one was painted in 1887. So, but I don't see it. And then they have pictures in this article. I'll put this in the description from Daily Art Magazine. It's an article with a lot of pictures in it. Anyway, I mean, there's a little disputing things. There's like, hey, this might be him, this might be him. Unconfirmed likeness. So really the only photo that we have is this one. And this one, let's look at this photo. Let's look at some of these. Let's see. What do we got here? Wait. Oh, wait. How come they don't have this one? Oh, I was incorrect. Here's another picture of Van Gogh. This is Vincent van Gogh, circa 1866. How come this wasn't in this article? I don't know. Okay. All right. Well, I stand corrected. And then this one's from 1872. So here he must have been a teenager because in this photo he's 19 years old. And then, so 1872, so here he's probably, gosh, is he like 13? He looks a little old to be 13 here. If you're asking me, I think he looks a little old to be 13. Let's turn He looks a little old to be 13. And then there he is there at 19. And that's when he was working as a guy who sells art. This is a really good book, actually. I'm glad I have it. And you know how they empty you out into the gift shop after a gallery show? This book wasn't in there. And this book was by the MFA. So no, it wasn't by the MFA. Cheers. It was by the show. It was published by, I think this is the show from 25 years ago. I think it originated, what did they say? It's like from Chicago? What? Oh, Detroit Institute of Arts. Okay, so Detroit Institute of Arts did this book. And it was the book for the show, for the traveling show. And I got one. And it's actually really good. If you ever find this book, this is a very good book. It's got like dates and things that happened, and it's very good. And there's some letters in here too. It's pretty substantial. Anyway, so yay Van Gogh. Yay Van Gogh. And it was very, very sad too. I'm glad they don't sugarcoat his mental illness, because it creates so much relevance to us now with his work, because aside from just that his work is amazing, I love his work, but I think just always been very fascinated by Vincent van Gogh and his life and his struggles, and then his demise was very sad. So, but it's his relationship with Theo was a beautiful thing. So, you can always look back on that and think, that is true friendship and caring right there. So, and he left such a legacy of arts. All right, let's do some work. So I am going to switching gears a little bit. I'm going to do some drawing today. I'm going to do a card because I have this artwork that I did last week with my Brayer. Did some Brayer art, and I want to make a card for a person that is important to me. It's her birthday coming up, and I'm just gonna do just some freewheeling. I think I was gonna do a quote, and I don't even. I just kind of drew a blank, and that's kind of a bummer. But I drew a blank. I just wanted to do something that she might actually hang up in her studio, you know? And I think I had a case of the overthinking with trying to come up with a quote that I thought would be meaningful to her. So get my little head in there for you. Oh, I don't think I like that. Yeah, so let's just do a study. Let's just do a study. Oh, splurge. I just had a big paint splurge. I'm going to zoom you down a little bit. All right, let's use this paint that I just splurged. So last week I broke out the brayer and the jelly plates and went to town making some surfaces for just to have for, oh, I made some cards, sorry. I made some cards for some thank you cards for my shop customers. But I also did a bunch of just, you know, paper just, for future use that I didn't really know what I was going to use it for. And I'm using this one for card. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Carolina. Appreciate that. Yeah, I did a bunch of jelly plate printing and Brayer art last week. And this was kind of on my mind was the cards that I need to send, that I need to make for birthdays this month. That was part of what I was in the back of my head. I was making thank you cards for my customers, but to include in like sticker packages. But then I thought I'm gonna do extra, and I'm going to and I wanted to do a quote for her, for the recipient of this card. But honestly, I just was drawing a blank. I was drawing a blank, and I thought I would wing it, and then I'm like, I'm not gonna wing it because I know she just enjoys. I know she enjoys like an abstract design, and I got that. I got that in my bag, so that's what I'm gonna do. And plus, I have not been doodling lately. I've been drawing, but I have not been doodling. And sometimes I really enjoy a little doodle, little doodly time, especially with my paint pens. Okay, I'm looking at my composition here, and I think, how do I connect these? Do I connect these? And what's going to happen if I put some mustard, mustard paint pen over everything here? I think I should do a live called Therapeutic Paint Pen Abstract Doodling. What do you think? I think that's what we're doing today, right now. Second half. Second half after Van Gogh. After the Van Gogh show. I have to say, ooh, ooh, I like how that connects. That's cool. I like how that mustard color is connecting everything. I'm going to bring it down here. I will say about the Van Gogh show, and I'm having a hard time, aren't I? I'm pausing. Um, it wasn't exactly what I thought it would be. Actually, I looking at the signs because I looked up, I was really curious what paintings they were going to have. And I noticed online, from what I could find out from the promotional websites and everything, I was like, how many paintings are they going to have? Like, where's the beef, how many paintings are they going to have here? Or how few? because I was really like, I'm not getting a lot from this. And I also I didn't feel like I was getting a lot of information. So I do like the direction that they went into with connecting the culture and his community and, his inner, you can't separate his inner world, his inner, torture. And you can't separate his relationship with Theo, which was just such an integral part of his story. I mean, it is the story. It's like, it's fascinating and it's lovely because they had such a great, Theo was just so supportive of him, and he really felt like Van Gogh was just misunderstood. And did you know that Van Gogh had several siblings? And I think he had, if I'm not mistaken, was it three sisters? And you just don't hear mention of them very much. So we're really, let me just say, they don't register because I may have heard about them before. Like I may have known about them before, but don't they don't figure in, you know? It's like Theo figures in. The art show was at the MFA Boston, Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. And I talk about it in the first half of this live. It's I go through I have a Van Gogh book that has a lot of the paintings that were in the exhibition, but I didn't get an exhibition book this time because I literally don't need it. I have all that information in another book um, from that's 25 years old, but it's a great book. It's still really. I'll show it to you in 1 second. I just got to use this drop of paint. Get that out of there. All right, I don't want to overdo it. Oh, don't want to overdo the yellow. I think we're looking good. But here's the book. Van Gogh Face to Face. So this was a show that they had at the MFA Boston 25 years ago, I think 2000, 2001, 2002, something like that. Anyway, and oh, whoa. And sorry about that. And that book has a lot of it has a whole section on the Rulin family. The show is called The Rulin Family Portraits. And I talk more about it in the first half of this live. So feel free to check that out. Hey, look, I forgot about the entire other half of this. What's going on here? Do that. What's going on here? Let's do some similar design here. Oh, I bring you in a little closer. There we go. Okay, that's good. Oh no! Uh-oh. This is what happens. And you know what? It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity. That's what I'm calling it. I'm calling it an opportunity to do that and to do some finger painting on other parts of this piece. I really like that big blue smudge. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Do some. Sorry, I missed the start. Oh gosh, don't be sorry. It's fine. Feel free. I'm glad I stayed on because I was kind of like, this is going to be a weird segue. Going from Van Gogh to making my card. But I always like to do art in these lives, you know? I really do. So I like to do a little art for the day. And then I do a 12:30 quiet live. And in that one, I'm going to ink this. I'm going to ink this rose. So if you'd like that, if you'd like to see that, please do come back at 12:30. And I'm going to do some asymmetrical balancing here. So we got the bottom has these squigglies. And I'm going to do something similar up here. Not similar, but let's do some lines, some squigglies, some intentional squigglies. Is this like Zentangle but with paint pens and like an abstract background? I don't know enough about Zentangle to know, but I know that it's a very popular method slash brand of doodles. Wow, did you make that flower? I did. I drew it. Thank you. Yeah, I drew it. It's a pencil sketch. I drew it in my live yesterday. I drew it in my early AM, which is this live. I do 2 lives a day. So I did that in my 10 AM live yesterday, except that live was actually at 9 AM yesterday because I went to the Van Gogh show. So I had to start early yesterday. So I'm doing a book. I'm creating a coloring. I'm calling it the working name of the book. Well, it's a book with all roses, all rose pictures, but I'm calling them Coloring and Create because they're coloring books, but they're not just coloring books. I'm going to have a sip of my coffee. They are going to be books that you will be able to use other media on as well, not just colored pencils, but things. The paper will be a little nicer, so you won't have to only use certain types of media. So I can't say exactly yet because I need to test the paper out that I'm going to use, but I think I'm going to use a 100-pound text, which I went through the company that I think I'm going to be using. No, I don't think. I know I'm going to be using them, at least for this book, and then we'll take it from there when I'm done. But yesterday I went through the sample pack that I received from them with their different papers and cover weights and finishes. And so on that was yesterday's live, and I did the first half was going through the sample kit that I got from them, and then the second, did I say second half? That first half of the live was going through the sample kit, and the second half was drawing that sketch that I just showed you. So yeah, so I'm working on that project, and I'm working on it on my lives, and yeah, just bringing you with me on my project, bringing you with me as I go, as I work through the process of making all of the art for the book and I'm gonna order it, I'm gonna design it, and then I'm gonna put in my order with the company Mix 'em, and then I'm going to be excited to see how it comes out, and then you and anybody will be able to order the book. So very excited about that. And if I like how it comes out, then I'm super excited to do more with the company, make more books. I do have coloring books on Amazon now, but those aren't going anywhere. They're staying there, but I want to do books where I have more control over the paper and the quality of the book, because I see coloring books as an opportunity for the user to be, you know, as passive or as aggressive as they want to be, in terms of it being like an opportunity for them to explore more of your creativity and more different materials and things. And you can't do that on the type of paper that you get in a typical Amazon coloring book. So I want to offer something that has more usefulness in terms of, you know, different things you can do with it. You know, I like to say it's like a collaboration, because you can just go to town on the printed page and you'll be able to use paint pens on it, or, you know, a little bit of water wash if you're using something like Neocolor to use. You'll be able to use a little bit of water. It's not going to be on watercolor paper, but it's going to be something that will allow you to, you know, have a little bit of water. Maybe not a lot, but I'll let you know because I need to see what works. I need to test out the paper with actual media and see how things go. And I also want to talk to the company and see what they suggest for me to do, what they can offer, what they suggest for paper once they hear what I want to do. So, yeah, first step was getting the samples, and I got those and I showed them to you guys yesterday. And now I need to finish the art, so I'm focused on that. Just on finishing the art for the first book. Okay, let's see, where are we here? Where are we here? Let me do this. And I am coming back at, excuse me, I'm coming back at 12:30, and I will be doing a quiet live, which, you know, twist my arm, I will talk on it. If people are chatting, I chat back. I'll talk back. But it's typically, you know, it's quiet unless there's, you know, talk. And I will be inking. Ooh, this looks kind of like Max Ernst. M-A-X, first name. E-R-N-S-T, second name. Look that up. This is kind of Max Ernstish. So at 12:30, I'll be inking this guy. Oh, let me show you some inks that I've done. Let me show you the ink I did yesterday. I did this one yesterday. And this is going to be a page in the book. And, oh, here's the Van Gogh picture that I did. So I'm now very interested in drawing a picture of Van Gogh from life. I drew this picture from one of his paintings, one of his self-portraits, and I want to do a Van Gogh drawing of him from an actual picture. Oh, and here's another one. This was a crystal that I drew. So who knows? I might do a crystal coloring and create book as well. Because can you imagine how fun it would be to go into this with paint pen and watercolor wash and oh my gosh, so fun. So fun, so fun, so fun. So hey, there I am. Do you see me? Thank you for coming today. I'm going to just do this right now. There we go. Thank you for coming today. It's been really awesome hanging out with you, and I will hopefully see you at 12:30 for my quiet ink drawing. Okay, so have a great one, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.